There is a moment after fear has tried to stop you, after doubt has tried to confuse you, after guilt has tried to shame you, after confusion has tried to blur you. When another voice arises, a voice that doesn't attack your courage, doesn't attack your clarity, doesn't attack your conscience, it attacks your freedom. This voice says, "You owe me. You can't leave. You're responsible for how I feel. You're the reason this is happening." This voice doesn't whisper, it pulls. This is episode 6, The Voice of Manipulation. Manipulation is not influence, manipulation is control. Manipulation is coercion disguised as concern. It is pressure disguised as compassion. It is guilt disguised as responsibility. It is fear disguised as loyalty. Manipulation uses emotional pressure, false obligation, guilt tactics, spiritual language, exaggerated consequences, selective memory. Manipulation's goal is simple: keep you bound to what God is breaking you free from. Manipulation doesn't want you to stay because it's right, it wants you to stay because it benefits someone else. Manipulation doesn't care about your obedience, it cares about your availability. Manipulation doesn't care about your calling, it cares about your compliance. Let's anchor this battle in scripture because the word exposes manipulation clearly and consistently. Galatians 1 verse 10. For do I now persuade men or God, or do I seek to please men? For if I yet please men, I should not be the servant of Christ. Manipulation collapses under allegiance. Jeremiah 23 verse 26. How long shall this be in the heart of the prophets that prophesy lies? Yea, they are prophets of the deceit of their own heart. False voices twist God's words for personal gain. Manipulation collapses under truth. Psalm 118 verse 8. Is it better to trust in the Lord than to put confidence in man? Manipulation collapses under trust. These passages reveal manipulation is rooted in human pressure. Manipulation twists truth. Manipulation uses emotional leverage. Manipulation collapses under truth, allegiance, and trust. Manipulation is persuasive, but it is not prophetic. Let's break down how manipulation operates when God calls you to walk away. Manipulation weaponizes your compassion, making you feel responsible for someone else's emotions. Manipulation exaggerates consequences, making you feel what will happen if you obey. Manipulation distorts loyalty, making obedience look like betrayal. Manipulation twists scripture, uses spiritual language to keep you bound. Manipulation creates false obligation, making you feel like you owe someone your presence. Manipulation strategy is not to stop you, it is to control you. Because controlled obedience is not obedience, it's captivity. Now let's talk about what happens when manipulation rises and how God responds. Manipulation says you owe me. God says you belong to me. Manipulation says you can't leave. God says I am calling you out. Manipulation says you're responsible for my feelings. God says cast your cares on me, not on them. Manipulation says you're hurting me. God says obedience is not harm. Obedience is healing. Manipulation says you're the problem. God says I'm your defender. Manipulation is pressure, but God is peace. Manipulation is control, but God is freedom. Manipulation is bondage, but God is deliverance. Before we transition to episode 7, let's summarize what we've uncovered. Recap of episode 6. Manipulation rises after confusion. Manipulation attacks freedom. Manipulation uses emotional pressure. Manipulation distorts loyalty. Manipulation twists truth. Manipulation collapses under allegiance, trust, and truth. Manipulation pulls, but God releases. Now that manipulation has been exposed, the final internal enemy rises: emotional attachment. Attachment doesn't pressure you, it binds you. It ties your heart to what God is removing. Episode 7 will expose the voice of emotional attachment and show how to break free. If this episode helped you confront manipulation, share it with someone who needs strength to break free from emotional pressure and false obligation.